Hello everybody, a warm welcome to Wisdom from North. My name is Jannica and I have an incredibly inspiring guest on the show today, Dr. Dain Heer. Dain is a doctor of chiropractic. He is the author of 9 books and the latest one is Being You, Changing the World. He has transformed thousands of people during the last 12 years and he has showed them that real deep dynamic transformation and change is indeed possible. And we're going to talk about that today. Now Dain, much welcome to Wisdom from North.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be with you.
It is so much fun. You're there in Texas and I'm here in Oslo. And you have snow as well, you're saying.
Yes, it was snowing today. I'm like, this is Texas. It's Houston. This is a kind of a, once in a decade experience from what they tell me. So
yeah.
It's an interesting day to be talking.
Yeah, we're kind of snowing down here. But I gotta say, I watched some videos of you last night and you're like a champagne bottle. It's like I feel like I'm so uplifted when you're talking. And that's kind of, I feel, what your message is about uplifting people, finding the symphony of possibilities, what we are capable of doing. And I would love to talk about that today. But before we go into that, I know you've had a very long process and you were very depressed. You were engaged to be married and you felt so empty, trying to find all these methods that would, I don't know, fill you up or fix you. And you were also suicidal. And I know a lot of people have gone through the same. But then you found something. So can you, tell that story?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much exactly as you described. And here I was a chiropractor living in paradise, Santa Barbara, California. And I was so depressed and unhappy. And I literally had tried every technique I could. I was one of these people who always knew things should be able to be better. They should be able to be different. And I would go to weekend workshops, and it was like I was so excited. And then by Wednesday, it felt like the weight of the world had caved back in on me. And it was after one of these weekend workshops. And literally, I got to the middle of the week where it felt like all the stuff that I had gained, all the lightness, all the possibilities had gone away again. And I was like, you know what, universe, I've had enough. I'm tired of struggling. I'm tired of being unhappy. If this is the way it's got to be, I'm going to kill myself. You got 6 months. Either I get some actual change in my life that keeps on going, or I'm out of here, and I don't care which it is. And literally a week later, I saw an ad for Access Consciousness. And I went, and well, first, of course, I was resistant to it because
right.
When you get exactly what you're asking for, you're like, no, it can't be that easy.
Yeah.
So, initially I resisted it, but I finally went and I had this session. And it was something called Access Consciousness bars. And this lady puts her hands on my head. And I feel this energy run through my body. And in an hour and 15 minutes, what happened is she put her hands on my head and I started giggling like a little kid. I was like, hee, 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 hee. And I kept giggling every time she'd move her hands to different places. And an hour and 15 minutes later, I got up and truly did not want to kill myself. It was the first sense of peace I'd had in almost 3 years. And the first time I remember knowing everything is okay, everything always has been, and everything always will be. And literally, it was the beginning of changing my life in a way that wasn't just transient. It wasn't just, wow, I feel better today and tomorrow I'm going to feel worse. It was, what she did was, she did this process, but then she gave me tools that I could use on my own. And so every time it felt like the universe was caving back in on my head, I would have a tool and it would go back out again. And I thought, that's what I was asking for. Something that I could actually use in my life to make things work. And, this was 14 years ago as of now. And, I've got the fortune of traveling the world and sharing these tools with people and also helping to create them. Because the thing I love about Access is it's not constant. It's not stagnant, I should say. In other words, we're always changing. As the world changes, we get more information about how we can create greater change in people's lives. And something we couldn't change 6 months ago, we now can. And I see people all around the world that are actually getting happy, which I think is one of our greatest things, It's like, when you're a little kid, they say, what do you want to be? You're like, happy! Yeah, but, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be an Indian chief? Do you want to be an actor? What do you want to be? Yes, as long as I'm happy. And that's what I would answer when people would ask, and it's actually finally happening, and I'm seeing it happen for lots of people around the world also.
Yeah, that's just so wonderful. Your screen is jumping up and down. I don't know if you have it on your lap.
That's me. I'm a little active. Okay. I'm one of these people with ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism all rolled into one. So actually sitting here still is almost all the effort I can take. As you see, that even shakes my computer screen because I don't actually work very well at a desk. So I'm in my chair in my room, you know, overlooking the bayou, the creek where I live. And so it's the computer's on my lap doing this all the time because I'm a little mobile.
So being happy, is that really a choice?
Yes, strangely enough. And what's interesting is it's not a choice that a lot of people realize they have. Right. And it's not a choice a lot of us have been taught to make, which is really strange to me. You know, as little kids, it's like, from my point of view, it's like, as parents, one of our greatest gifts to our kids could be to show them that they have choice and show them that one of those choices is actually happiness, no matter what situation you're in. I think the difficulty is we've all gotten so much mileage out of being unhappy. You know, because when you're happy, people look at you and they're like, oh, what drug are you on? You know, and when you're unhappy, though, when you've got problems, people are like, oh, dear, it's okay. It'll be all right. And they pat you on the back and they give you hugs and that sort of thing. So it's almost like we're taught that there's more value, that we'll get more from others functioning from unhappiness. And I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see us actually support others' happiness also. So
how can we find our capabilities? Because we are so judgmental all the time about, and especially, I got to say, in Scandinavia, we have this thing called, I don't know how to translate it, but it's janteloven, that you're not supposed to be anybody. So, yeah. Yeah. And I know you've been to Sweden.
Yes, I have. I've been to Sweden. Actually, I've been to Sweden, Norway, Denmark. The only place I haven't yet been is Finland. I guess I don't want to finish anything yet, you know, probably is what's going on. But and I'm really familiar with Janteloven. You know, it's got this, and the funny part is, you know, in Scandinavia, you're well familiar with it. You know, it's part of the culture. And although I see it in the U.S. too, I see it in Australia, I see it in New Zealand. It's like we're taught not to be anything greater than the norm. We're taught to be normal, average, real, and the same as everyone else. And what I would say is, you know, and you say, how do you get there? And I'd say, well, first thing is you have to realize that it's actually valuable to you. And look back over your life, and the times when you were the happiest, was it when you were trying to fit into somebody else's box of reality? Or is it actually when you were willing to be you no matter what and not give in and buy into other people's judgments? And I think one of our greatest difficulties is we've been taught to buy into other people's judgments as though that's caring for them, and doing something that they might judge is actually not caring for them. But what if that's not actually true? I mean, how many times have you not bought into somebody else's judgment of what you should do and chosen it anyway, and they changed and became greater as a result of it? See, I think part of what we're missing is we actually have a capacity to change the world around us if we function not from other people's judgments. Because so many other people are looking to get out of judgment too, but everybody's been going this way in this box for so long, everybody thinks they have to. And when you jump out of the box, you're like, dude, I'm swimming over here. People are like, I want to swim over there too. You know, and then you become an inspiration. So here's a question you can ask. There's so many, one of the things I love about Access is there's so many tools, so many ways of going about literally creating change. Like, for example, one of the big things that we do is we ask questions. Because a question always empowers. An answer disempowers. Anytime you ask a question, you can open up a different door of possibility that didn't exist before.
Oh, an answer disempowers?
Yeah. Isn't that weird? Yeah. We've been taught to look for answers our whole lives.
Oh, that's
But
huge.
literally, yeah, that's a big one. Because the thing is, an answer literally disempowers you, because when you decide this is what is, that's all you can see. Nothing that doesn't match that conclusion can come into your world.
Right.
And so you cut off all these other possibilities of what can exist. So there's a couple sort of real staple questions that you can ask. One of them is, how does it get any better than this? And you want to ask it when something good happens or when something bad happens. How does it get any better than this? Because it'll make a bad situation better. It'll make a good situation even better than it just got. So when you ask, how does it get any better than this? What happens is these doors of possibility open that you never saw before because you weren't asking the question. Most of us ask, how does it get any worse than this in our lives? You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
Or we have...
Should we ask it like multiple times or just once for each situation, for instance?
You know, I would say whatever feels appropriate, because what will happen is, like, let's say, you know, you're looking to get I don't know, let's say you're looking to ask somebody out or something, or have somebody ask you out, and they do. And you go, oh, cool, with total gratitude. That's great. Wow. How does it get any better than this? Now, who knows how that's going to show up? It could get better in that, maybe they'll take you out to a really nice place. Maybe you'll end up starting a relationship. Maybe you'll find out that they're absolutely not the person you thought they were, and that'll be the last date, But all of those is better because it's actually an increase in the possibilities that occur. Or you say, how does it get any better than this when, like, let's say you get a bill that is just way more than it's supposed to be. I've literally there was a lady who called me and she's like, thank you for this tool. I just have to tell you what happened. I'm like, okay, what happened? And she said, I got the one tool off of one of your videos. How does it get any better than this? I was like, okay. She said, and I got this bill and it was 10 times what I thought it was supposed to be. It was like her cell phone bill or cable bill or something. And I'm like, thousands of dollars for this is what the bill was. And she said, and I sat down and I said, how does it get any better than this? Because I was not willing to buy the point of view that I had to pay all of that money because I knew it wasn't right. She said, and I called the people, and I got one of the nicest people I've ever talked to at one of these places in my life. And not only did they refund, they didn't make me pay anything, but the lady gave me this credit on my next month's bill of $100. I was like, wow, how does it get any better than that?
Yeah.
But if you don't ask the question, like what most of us would do or what we've been taught to do is I got this huge bill, oh my God, and then we go into the trauma and drama or we go into what's wrong about it. And when you go into what's wrong, that's all you can see. And I think that's where, unfortunately, a lot of us have taught ourselves to function and been taught to function by the people around us. But when you go into what's wrong, that's all you get because your point of view is what creates your reality. It's not reality that creates your point of view. You get to choose how you respond. You get to choose what you decide to create. And in so doing, you can create something totally different than what everybody else will create if you're just willing to ask a question.
So it's kind of like a communication with the universe. You're like, because the universe wants or are supporting us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the universe is like, the universe wants to give to us, right. But we're never asking. We're concluding and deciding the way reality is, and then that's all that can show up. And the universe is like, well, okay, yep, you're right. It's like they have that saying, whether you decided you can or whether you decided you can't, you're right.
Right.
And it's really true. So, but just by really asking these simple questions, we can start to change the things that we've decided are not possible because we start to see the possibilities show up. And this is a real simple tool. There's a lot more complex stuff to change major aspects of your life, but this is a great one to just institute right now. Because with something this simple, why would you not start asking, how does it get any better than this at this moment, and just keep going?
So do you have more questions that we can ask?
Oh, I've got thousands of them. How long do you have?
Well, bring some few more so we can.
Okay, let's do a couple more. So another thing that you can ask is in any situation is, what else is possible here? And once again, it just opens the door for what else is possible that you never thought to consider. Another great one is, what's right about me I'm not getting.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a big one. And that will actually start to get you out of judgment of you quicker than you could imagine. Because what happens is when you go, what's right about me I'm not getting, obviously you start looking for that. And when you look for it, that's what you see. That's what shows up. And what happens is most of us are in such judgment of ourselves for what's wrong about us all the time that this actually starts to become an antidote for that and actually starts to let you realize, you know what? There's actually something cool about me. There's a gift that I can be. There's a gift that I can give. And you start to get a different sense of you and your value and what you can contribute and also what you can receive.
And then I've read that you're saying that 98% of our thoughts are not ours. And
right.
Like, whoa. Wow.
Okay,
is that for real?
Actually, I gotta say, that's a lie. Okay, I need to tell you, I know it's weird. It's more like 98,000% of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are not yours. Okay? Because the thing is, we're like big psychic radio receivers. We pick this stuff up all the time from the people around us and think it's ours. And in my chiropractic practice, this was one of the first tools I instituted. Actually, I gotta say, just sort of as a side note, I was so depressed before I came to Access and started using the tools. Before I had my first session and before I started actually having this one tool in particular, and I literally, between the Access Consciousness bars and this one tool, cured myself of depression. Okay? And I know that sounds like a big statement, but that's exactly what went on in my life. But here's what happens is if you'll ask, who does this belong to every thought, feeling, and emotion, and judgment, and wrongness, and heaviness, and yuckiness, and twisting of your guts, all that sort of stuff that we experience on a daily basis, if you'll ask, who does this belong to? And it lightens up at all. It becomes less, like that twisting in your guts is less, or the thought or the judgment that you're going into is less. It's because you're actually picking it up from somebody else. It's not actually yours. Okay. Or you bought it at an earlier time as yours when it wasn't actually yours. In other words, like when you're a little kid and you're around your family, and let's say your family's really sad. Well, what you do is you pick up on that energy of sadness and you carry it with you. And then anybody who's walking within, I don't know, within 100 meters of you or 200 meters that has that sadness, you turn around because you can feel it because you're that attuned to that particular frequency of energy. So what happens is, if you'll do who does this belong to for 3 days, you just ask, who does this belong to? If it lightens up, it's not yours. You just ask to return it to whoever it came from. You don't have to know who it is. You just return it to sender with consciousness attached.
How and do literally, you say that? Do you say that, return to sender? Or?
Yeah, that's it. You just go, return to sender. Because the thing is, if it's not yours, you can't do anything about it.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing that people need to get. They're going, well, you're not taking responsibility. I'm like, how can I take responsibility for something I'm just aware of? The responsibility I can take is acknowledging that I'm aware of it and then letting it go as though it's my point of view. And so that's literally all you do. You just go, return to sender, bye-bye. Because if it's not yours, there's not a darn thing you can do with it except wallow in it and try to change it. But you can't change something that you're not the source of.
So do you think that's why sometimes we can wake up in the morning feeling just totally out of it?
Yes. Yeah. I would say that is a primary reason why we wake up in the morning totally out of it. And it literally, if you wake up in the morning and go, who does that belong to? 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 And I just say it once, but that morning thing that we do a lot of times is you want to go, who does that belong to? And the other thing you want to do is ask yourself, when did I buy that I had to wake up like this? Because one of the things that happens is, you know, as a little kid, we were around our parents and we were like, you know, at 5 in the morning, you know, as a little kid, you're like, yes, what can we do today, Mom and Dad? I want to go play. And your parents are like, can you shut up and go to sleep? You know? So even as a little kid, we start to learn that that's the way you wake up in the morning. And then later on in life, you start waking up and having the exact points of view, the exact weird energy that your parents had. But was it yours in the first place, or did you buy it? And did you duplicate it? And could you choose something else if you stopped buying it and stopped duplicating it?
So is this kind of linked to what Bruce Lipton is talking about, that we have been programmed ever since we're children, from 0 to 6 years old, and this is perhaps a tool for, you know, losing those programs in a way, because you have these patterns, you know, especially in relationship, we attract the same kind of guy or the same woman that's always not, you know, in a relationship or whatever. Can we then use that tool?
Yes. This tool works beautifully for that. And literally what will happen is, and there's one other tool that's, I don't know, maybe too complex to go into, but it's a POC and POD. It's basically, which if you want to go into that, we can, because you use that tool to change. Okay.
I'd love to.
Yes, let's go there. Okay.
Thing. Yeah.
So here's the thing. So if you do this, if you go, okay, so how many, let's transition then into this POC and POD point of view, or this POC and POD tool, which the long form for it is, you know, all these words. But it basically, the core of it is this POC and POD, which stands for going back to the point of creation, or the point of destruction of wherever you decided this point of view. Wherever you lock this point of view in place, it's limiting you. So wherever you, like, for example, bought the point of view that this type of person was attractive, or this type of person was somebody you needed to get to love you. Because what we do a lot of times in relationship, which is so interesting to me, is we'll take the parent that loved us the least or didn't seem to be there as much, and then we'll create relationships with somebody who's just like that, figuring that if we can get that person that we're now in a relationship with to love us, then it means we weren't wrong for our parents not loving us, and we can finally figure out how to get our parents to love us.
Oh, so it's all about the parents?
It's all about our desiring love and seeking it out there, thinking we can change it if we finally do so. Which is, and so if you look at it, you could say it's about the parents on the one hand, but in actuality, it's our choices that we've made that create it that way. And so the whole thing is actually about how do you get to the place where the choices that you're making are actually the choices you'd like to be making. So here's what we do. So for example, let's do this. So wherever you bought that you had to wake up unhappy or whatever, let's back up a minute. So everybody think about the way you wake up in the morning, like Jannika's talking about where you wake up and you're like, or whatever it is for you. Wherever you bought that point of view that you had to be that way, wherever you saw it in somebody else and decided that's the way waking up is in this weird world, so you just duplicated it because that's what everybody else does, will you now let it go? Will you now actually destroy and uncreate it? Meaning destroying the structure of that you put in place you have to do every day, and uncreate, meaning take your creative energy out of creating that yuck and actually put it into something creative. So, will you destroy and uncreate all that, please? And Jannika, will you answer for everybody?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now, that's
right.
all kinds of words. It's like, and, you can find...
vibration, or do they mean something, or do they... What are you saying?
Yeah, it's actually short form for about 6 pages of material.
Oh, okay.
So it's got a vibration too, and all you have to do is, you could just go all that weird stuff Dain said the other day, or all that weird stuff the weird guy said with Jannika. You don't have to remember my name even. So literally, you could wake up and go, okay, so all this yuck, pock and pod, pock and pod, pock and pod, pock and pod, pock and pod.
Pock and pod.
Yep, POC and POD.
Okay.
Which stands for going back to the point of creation of wherever you created it, or the point of destruction. And it's based on the idea, it's like if you look at the walls in your room, they look solid, right?
Yeah.
But science tells us they're not. Science tells us they're 99.999% space. And what if the limitations in our lives are exactly the same way? What if there's a space there that if we accessed it, we could just walk right through them and we wouldn't have to be bound by those walls of limitation anymore?
So... what it does is it looses up that energy that you have been carrying around all your life, in a way.
Yeah.
These magic words, or yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what it does. And the thing is, it's like there's an explanation on my website, but it's 20 minutes long.
Right.
Because each one of these words, like the right and wrong, good and bad example, or the part of it, stands for the really good judgments you have about something and the really bad judgments. And the really bad judgments limit you because you know how that is when you judge something as bad and wrong. The really good judgments limit us even more. Because when we decide we finally have something right, we don't want it to change. But if we stick at what we decided we had right at 6 years old or 10 or 13, and here we are 30 or 40, that's not nearly enough for us most of the time. So we've got all these things that we decided were right in the past that are actually keeping us from moving forward now. And you run this clearing statement and you can actually change all of those too. So that's just one aspect of it, but literally the explanation of it is about 20 minutes long, and each word has a different thing, and it means something different. And let's do one part of that might help people out there. Like, have you ever heard that you have to peel the layers of the onion to get to the core of the issue?
Right, or yourself.
Or yourself, exactly. And you peel and you peel and you peel, and all you get are tears.
Yeah.
Because it's not an onion. It's actually this energetic structure called a nucleated sphere, where there's a little sphere and then one outside of that, and one outside of that, and one outside of that, and one outside of that, ad infinitum. And what happens is you do all kinds of work and all kinds of stuff, and finally, you finally get a breakthrough and it pops one layer. Well, then another layer goes to fill it right back in, which is one of the reasons why a lot of us don't get nearly as far as we could or should in our personal growth or our change, the things that we're looking to get as different, because we have these energetic structures called nucleated spheres holding them in place. Well, that's part of the clearing statement, the thing where we say right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all 9, shorts, boys, and beyonds. The boys are actually a short form referring to these nucleated spheres. And so what happens is, embedded in the clearing statement is this capacity to undo the things that you may have been working on for years that you haven't had an ability to change.
So you don't need to go to hypnosis anymore.
Well, I would say, I say there's an appropriate time for everything when it's appropriate. And what I've seen is I've seen the amount of change that I'm able to facilitate and that other access facilitators can create in people's lives in a very short amount of time to be really dynamic. And so, and my point of view is, you know what? If you know it's time for hypnosis, man, then go to hypnosis. If you know it's time for surgery and that's what's required right now, go do it. You know, from my point of view, I never cut off anything because anything can be right at the appropriate time. I personally, I've seen this create more dynamic change than anything else I've ever done. So you can cognitively, I guess consciously in a sense, from being totally present, you can change things that oftentimes even under hypnosis you can't get to.
Right. Because we can change things in the past, in the present, in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about the clearing statement is it doesn't matter whether you created the limitation last week or 100 billion years ago. The beauty of it is you don't have to visualize it to go back there and change it. Right. And you don't just change one thing with each time you run it. You go back to the core and you change every point from the past to the present, which actually allows you to create a different future.
So I just have to ask, where do these words come from? Who came up with them? Is it old wisdom or is it new, modern?
Actually, yes.
Yes, to what? Old wisdom?
Yes.
All
it's
right.
all of the above. I would say in a sense it's more it's using the awareness of the old wisdom to actually create new technology. And so Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, he's been doing it 25, 28 years, something like that now. And I've been involved for 14 years. And the clearing statement it was there when I came along, but it wasn't in this form. And over sort of my first 5 or 6 years in Access, I actually saw it evolve into its current form. So it's been this way for probably 8 or 9 years. But basically it changed because we found, oh my gosh, here's this other piece, like these nucleated spheres, for example. And we thought, wow, here's this other piece, because the pod, it didn't used to be there, the part about the point of destruction. And we found out what most people were doing is rather than truly letting things go, what they were doing was trying to put it into a different universe without letting it go, without truly getting rid of it. They were trying to put it all over here. So most people were walking around with this like entire universe next to them of all the stuff they decided was bad and wrong that they just shoved over there energetically. And we found it actually because we were working with somebody who had a disease. I can't even remember the name of it. It was like Klippel-Feil. It was some syndrome that they had, and we were working with them, and we're like, wait a minute, there's this huge thing of all the stuff you don't want to look at over here. What do we do with that? And we went, wow, if we went to the point of destruction, we could actually start undoing. And literally this person started getting better, and we went, okay, we're onto something here. Added it to the clearing statement. So that long story is basically just to tell you that it's evolved over many years and has many pieces to it. But the original idea was that if we could go back to that, the real point of creation of wherever you decided the limitation had to be real for you, and unlock it from there, then every limitation you based on that point of view would disappear. And so that's where we came up with this point, or actually Gary came up with this point of creation idea, and then we changed it as we saw that more information was required to create the greatest result possible.
And do you think these limitations also, or the consequences of them, are also illnesses? And does that mean that we can heal ourselves?
Absolutely. And, you know, the number of times I've seen someone change an illness, change depression, change a physical disease has been, I mean, I see it probably close to at least once a day. I have somebody send me, well, actually probably a lot more than once a day, actually. I have somebody send me an email about something that has changed, and it's a physical condition, or it's a depression, or it's a thing in the relationship they thought they couldn't change. And absolutely, because your point of view creates your reality. Our bodies respond to our points of view. It's not the other way around. Your body functions primarily from consciousness and from awareness, which means it doesn't create difficulties. We're the ones who impose difficulties on our bodies. And so you can actually use this to undo it and change it dynamically. I mean, one of the reasons I'm still doing Access really is because I had this miracle occur in my chiropractic practice when I first started, because I got this tool. I think I was going to explain this a long time ago. I got this tool. Who does this belong to? I started using it in my own life for every thought, feeling, and emotion and judgment, and sort of all the mental stuff that I had. And it literally changed it. Like I did, who does this belong to? Every thought, feeling, and emotion. And at the end of 3 days, I was walking around like I was in a walking, talking meditation. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I wonder what else this affects. So I had this guy walk into my office, and I'd been treating him for months. And he was in 8 out of 10 back pain when he would walk in. And we'd get him out to like 2 to 3 to 4 out of 10 on a like 10 being childbirth sort of pain scale. And so he would come in and we'd get him out of pain. And then by the next time, he was back to an 8 out of 10 on the pain scale. And I told him one day, I said, look, you need to go see somebody else. I said, this is not working for me to have you get out of pain and get back into pain. He said, Doc, you don't get it. The reason I'm here as a patient and keep coming back to you is because you're the only one who's ever gotten me out of this much pain. And I was like, oh, man, that means I'm stuck with this guy. Okay, fine. You know, because I want people to change. I don't care who they get it from. I just want them to have change.
Yeah.
And this was way back when I started. And so he comes in after I've done this who does this belong to thing, and my mind is clear, not a thought in it. And he goes to lie down, and it takes him 5 minutes to lie down on the table, face down. And I said, hey, I'm going to ask you a question. It's going to sound weird, but just see where we go with this. I said, who does this back pain belong to? And he pushes himself up, turns around, and says, my wife.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what I did. I literally stood there. You know how you get those chills all over your body?
Yeah.
And you know you're in the presence of something that is just like amazing, a miracle occurring. And literally, he got out of 80% of his pain with that one question.
Wow.
And we literally, and I asked him, I said, can you explain this to me, please? He's all, oh my God, I can't believe I did never think of this before. His wife had such bad back pain. She had back surgery to try to get out of it, and it made the pain worse. And he said he was looking at her one day, and she was in tears, and he started crying, and he said, I would do anything to get this woman out of pain. And literally, within a few weeks, her pain started going away, and they thought, oh, the drugs had finally started working, or the physio had finally started working. And within a few weeks after that, he started with the symptoms, and within a year, it had totally progressed into this terrible pain nobody could find the cause for. And literally within that hour, we got him over 85–90% of his symptoms, and within the next few sessions, he was totally pain-free.
That's amazing. But does this apply to things that you're born with as well? If you're born with an illness, that we can now in this life, maybe in this, shift in consciousness, that we can actually, uncreate it now.
It's got the possibility to. I've seen people born with different things that were congenital or hereditary, and I've seen them change the symptomology. Sometimes they've actually changed it so the entire thing goes away. It sort of depends on what it is. And also for that, we actually have these hands-on body processes that we teach so you can, work on your friends and family that actually start changing the way the body functions, change the blueprint of the body so the body can make a choice to heal itself. So there are all these different levels on which it works. And, and the beauty of it is, it's like you said, it's like I want people to have the tools to be able to heal themselves, to be able to create change in their own lives. Because, you know what? There are way too many people on the planet that can benefit from it. And when we actually have those tools for ourselves, then we become that inspiration for others to actually know it's possible.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, that we don't believe in it. It's kind of too good to be true. Can I heal myself? I got
Seriously.
this illness. It's there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this reality tells us that you need to go to somebody.
Yes.
And you need to go through a lot of pain and suffering to create change. And I found it's the exact opposite. I found laughter creates far more change than pain and suffering. And it's got a movement forward energy, laughter does, rather than this sort of, oh, I need to go through the pain of it. Yes, there are painful things you've experienced, and that should be acknowledged. And what can we do to get it so you don't have to live in that constant state of pain anymore, but you can start expressing the joy of living?
Right. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Jannica, truly a pleasure.
So are you coming to Scandinavia again soon?
Yes, actually, my Being You Changing the World book was just, I guess in June. Wow, that's been 7 months already. Wow, can't believe it. It's been 7 months since it was translated into Swedish.
Oh.
And I'll actually be there in June doing a class. I'll be doing classes in different places in Scandinavia and also in Germany because the Being You book's translated into German. I'm excited.
Great. I hope it will get translated into Norwegian one day.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk to a good Norwegian publisher and find out.
Let's do that. Well, thank you so much, and take care in Texas, and keep on the good work. And thank you so much for watching, guys, and much light from Texas and Norway.
Yes.
Bye.
Thanks, Jannica. Bye, y'all.
Bye.